I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What, a vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
A big shout out to everybody in Riverside. And as a kid, I always wanted to meet Don King. But now I think Don King's a fucking asshole. He's a racist.
No. We're not going down that road.
None bigger than this. Maybe the biggest upset of this decade.
Dile que ese estilo es un fact, dile, porque él puede quedar bien con la pelea.
Welcome everybody to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Denise Sal, Mr. Boxing Guru. Again, we're doing a quick podcast. Got to make sure that I come on here. I really appreciate all the feedback you guys have been giving me. Not only on that podcast, but also on the shirts. Like you guys already know, we're selling the Boxing and Chill shirts. Again, I wanted to, before we get started, I want to send a quick shout out to everybody that has purchased these shirts. I mean, they really, it goes to say, I mean, it's just nice, because one, you guys have been, for the most part, a lot of people have been real supportive. And I hadn't made a shirt and I still haven't really made a shirt in, years. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I started making shirts back in like 2015 or 16, something like that, a long time ago, about 5-6 years ago. I made the Mexicans for Golovkin, and, shout out to everybody who made it happen, but the Mexicans for Golovkin shirt ended up in some big publications. We got Golovkin to pretty much promote the shirt. Again, in a way, it kind of helped, to promote his persona as, the Mexican savior, I guess, in a way. Boy, as times changed. It also again, we made a Boxing and Chill, we made a Canelo shirt, and again, this is all just, I'm not really taking any profit on these shirts, it's just me trying to create something for boxing fans, I'm not making any money off of these shirts, it's just me, going out there and pretty much, coming out even, between me going to pick up shirts, going to drop them off, shipping them, and once it's all said and done, you kind of break even. But just the fact of the matter is that I'm getting something that I created out there to you guys. It's really, really special. All the folks that have helped, the graphic designers, you guys know who you are. People that help me ship and whatnot, and even me, because I've been doing all of that lately. So again, big shout out to everybody. Life has been going great. So yeah, just wanted to come on here, do a quick podcast, talk about the fights that actually happened this weekend. Kind of playing everything by ear, so just kind of what I remember from the weekend. Of course, on ESPN, we had Berchelt losing to Nakatila. And that was back in Vegas. I think I was talking the 6th round, if I'm not mistaken. So this was the end of Berchelt. And shout out to my dog Salma that's right here, and she's snoring away. So if you guys hear loud snores, that's all hers. That's not me fucking queefing in the background. Yeah, man, it looks like that's the end of Berchelt. And again, I had a couple of people said, "Oh, what's up with the podcast? You're not gonna talk about Berchelt because he's an Adidas guy." No, the whole Adidas thing. It is what it is. But you guys already know that my answers with any of this stuff, it comes from the heart. Of course, there's some fighters that you become friends with, but for the most part, I try not to for that same reason. I mean, I've gone through it with other fighters, and you become close friends, and you can't really be critical of them. So I'm to the point where fuck it. There's no friends, no new friends, and this is what it is. Berchelt's an interesting story because Berchelt was one. He was a monster. He was a guy that was bigger when it comes to that weight class or he stayed at that weight class longer than he should have. He's obviously a big kid for 130 pounds. Again, he was the man at 130 from the minute he stepped back in, what was it, like 20 2017, I think it was about, January 2017 when we first saw him, like legit saw him, not Cancun fights or whatnot. We first saw him in the big stage versus, what was this kid's name of? Oh, El Bandido Francisco Ramirez, and it was a fight that of course they knew of each other, and that's why Francisco El Bandido was so adamant about taking in. But that's a fight that a lot of people did not, especially I know at that point Golden Boy and friends did not really want the fight. That's when Bandido was with or promoted in a way by Golden Boy, and they ended up doing, I believe it was Fantasy Springs or whatnot. Again, Bandido was a good fighter, good. How do you say it? He was just good technician. He was like the Wish version of Juan Manuel Marquez. A high guard, high left hand, trying to keep folks off of him. But again, good fight all around. But we all knew, that Berchelt was forced to be reckoned with. He was a strong kid. He always seemed too big for that weight class. What he lacked in skills, he had in just brute strength. And that's why maybe I'm not as upset or hurt or maybe I'm a little dismissive of him, because look, man, fighters like Berchelt, that's why I always say fighters like that, you gotta let them go. You gotta let them fucking bang. You gotta enjoy them for what they are. They're not guys that are gonna be safety first. And that's what this boxing shit is all about lately. You had a lot of these newer fighters, and I understand why. I get it. They're safety first, very minimal contact, and you wait for folks to come at you, then attack when the other fighter's vulnerable. That's cool. I don't need to like it. I appreciate it, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna go out of my way to watch it. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But again, Berchelt is the type of fighter that, yes, he had a short career. He's had a short career, at least on top. But it was something that I just enjoyed while he was there. Look, he was never a pound for pound fighter. He was never, almost like an elite fighter, but he was a champion at the end of the day. He fought an honest fight, and that's all you could possibly ask for a fighter. Now, I remember, again, when I had seen him in a couple of other fights, but when I first saw him versus Bandido, which was this big event, I know that he was like previous handlers of Francisco Vargas weren't too keen on trying to get that fight going. Vargas then jumped management. He started working with these other guys that, they care about making fights of the year, but they didn't really care about the longevity of their fighter. So they made Vargas go after this guy. And again, Vargas, being the more seasoned vet, he wanted the fight. He really wanted to make sure that hold on, let me fix my volume. Okay, yeah, he really wanted to make sure he actually got this fight, because from my understanding, Vargas had actually sparred this guy. He had toyed with him, of course, like he should, because again, very brute force. A guy like Vargas that's coming from with more of a amateur pedigree would be able to do more versus a guy like Berchelt. And he would in sparring, but sparring and fighting, especially as Berchelt developed, it became he kind of started honing in his skills and became a legit professional fighter. Again, he went and beat the shit out of Vargas, and therefore started his career at 130 pounds. Hey, son, chill. Can you guys hear that? That's a French. Sorry about that, guys. So again, his career started at 130, and he kept going all 200 in 2017, and then he fought again. That's right. He fought Nakatashi Miura. He did fight Nakatashi Miura. He had a great fight with Nakatashi. And then eventually ended up fighting Vargas again and again. Why? If you're a Vargas handler, why would you want to fight this fucking monster again? But nonetheless, he did. Of course, the same thing happened. He ended up whipping his ass. I believe it was six rounds. stoppage, but again, he ended up getting a stoppage after that. Of course, he continued his run again, and this is the Vargas. I mean, I'm sorry, Berchelt didn't have a strong run. I mean, he did fight Jason Sosa, but at the end of the day, I think he had a fight, like a mid-COVID fight with nobody there in Mexico, which is kind of neat. They even aired it on ESPN, which is kind of cool. But he finally got the big fight, and that fight, of course, was with Oscar Valdez, which is a fight that honestly most folks thought Valdez was going to get his ass beat. I mean, we're talking about a guy that had so many wars. He's been so worn, shop worn already. So I mean, it is fighting a guy like Berchelt was going to be the end of Oscar Valdez. But no, on the contrary, we saw that all that work that Valdez was working with the Reynosos finally paid off. We saw Valdez looking awkward in the last 2-3 fights because he was trying to implement a style that, quite frankly, wasn't his. But he became a pure puncher, boxer puncher with them, and especially versus a robotic, I guess you could say, figure like Berchelt is. So he went on to box Berchelt's fucking ears off, and I think he ended up stopping him. Found a mistake. Yeah, he ended up stopping him. That's when people finally said, okay, this weight cut's catching up with them. From the very beginning of the fight, again, Berchelt was never in the fight. It was always Oscar, and Oscar Valdez looked extra fucking crispy. He looked fucking good. He looked sharp. He danced around him. He finally got him tired, and when he got him tired, boom, he fucking stopped his ass. And again, even Oscar, I'm sorry, he hasn't looked as great as he did when he took the belt from Berchelt. So now come this fight, I mean, you gotta think, okay, Berchelt looked like shit. He got knocked out. Again, this shit happens. Sooner or later, this extreme weight cuts catch up with these guys. The legs go out on a boxer relatively quickly if you're not a safety first type of fighter. Again, it happens. That's why, again, I always say enjoy these fighters while they last. And on comes Saturday versus Nakatila. And fuck, it was, it's always fun to see these type of fights because you see when it's a two-sided, or even when it's one-sided, ass whooping. But when it comes from a seasoned pro, it's almost fucking sad because there was no one point where Berchelt was actually in this fight. It was on Nakatila, and it wasn't like Nakatila had this, great fucking record. I mean, what he had, well, actually, it wasn't that bad. It was 22 wins. The great thing about him was that he just came with pop. But it was a record enough that was tainted enough with 2 losses, enough for the Berchelt folks to say, you know what, this is a great comeback fight. I've lost twice, but once versus Oscar Valdez, and the other when I was 7 fights in. But Top Rank is king when it comes to these things. They don't like we always say it, like I know my parents would say in Mexico, no dan paso sin guaracho. It means they don't take a step foot without wearing the shoes. They know exactly what they were doing versus a guy like this. If from my understanding, from what it appears, I'm assuming that the Berchelt's contract was pretty much up, so they wanted a big fight. They got it. You could tell by the promotion that they weren't doing really much to get things going for that fight. I get it. So what's a great way to get rid of a guy that's his contract is up for renewal? You get him beat. Now when it comes to negotiations, you really have no room for negotiation. You get the fights that's out there. You get the fights that's available. But that's pretty much it. I'm not saying there was anything crooked going on, but that's just the way boxing works. Could they have given Berchelt a better opponent? Fuck yeah, they really wanted him around. If he was a ticket seller, Berchelt's not a ticket seller, guys. He's a Mexican fighter that people want to see, but he doesn't have that type of backing, like, let's say, a guy from Jalisco would, a guy from Michoacan would. You don't see that many type of those Mexicans out here. He's from, Acapulco? I don't even fucking know what part of Mexico Berchelt is. He's from somewhere coastal. I know that for sure, but you don't see a lot of folks, coastal folks out here. From Yucatan, if I'm not mistaken, which again, Yucatan, you really don't see folks from Yucatan in the U.S., much less California, Nevada. It's always the migration is more of a labor migration. It's more of the people that work in the fields and whatnot. The Michoacanos, the Jalisco, even Baja California. Places like that are here in the U.S. So there's not a strong population. You're not. How could I say this? You're not going out of your way to go and see Berchelt. He's the type of fighter that you go out and see. So again, he didn't have the strong backing as far as fan base goes. But again, nonetheless, he was a good enough fighter. And another thing, again, now I'm not making excuses for the kid because obviously he's washed. That change in trainers, he really had a good trainer out of Sonora and Mexico. But of course, anytime the fighter loses, the easiest and the best way to psych yourself out and say it was somebody else's fault, not yours, is to blame the trainer. So he got rid of his trainer, and so he hired this mitts happy guy. And that's one thing that we've always criticized Floyd for doing those fucking sloppy mitts where he's throwing punch that like a million punch at a fucking second. But that's just Floyd did that shit for the cameras. You start seeing all these other trainers do the shit like this, and it's kind of ridiculous. And I think Capetillo, I think he comes from that family too, the guy that did the dirty hand wrestling for Margarito. But Capetillo was a new trainer. I never seen him train anybody. I seen him wrap Fury's hands, but he has maybe a kid that is in the amateur program, but he's never really developed anybody. He's one of those swag trainers that are now those Mexican swag dudes that are in Vegas now. Not necessarily trainers, but just because they get celebrities to go into their gym, or world champions, not necessarily that they train, but just to get just to use their gym. And all of a sudden, they got kids like Berchelt that finally see all this, glamour and whatnot, and decide to go to him. So, in my opinion, this guy didn't do it. He did a disservice to Berchelt. But again, that's that on Berchelt. Again, don't dwell on these type of things. I heard a lot of people a little down because Berchelt lost, the way Berchelt lost. But these are the type of styles that, again, you have to enjoy while they last. My only regret about Berchelt is not getting additional fights. One fight that I would have loved for Berchelt, and again, in our prime Berchelt was him versus Jamel Herring. I think it would have been a great fight. I think even to some extent, if he finds himself, if he does decide to come and fight again, and he puts a couple of wins under his belt and decides to go back to a legitimate trainer, then why not? You have to test him out. You have to test him out and see how his legs are. You have to go through the proper type of trainers, like a Robert Garcia, Manny Robles, the type of trainer that's going to be honest with him, not any type of fucking yes man that you fucking find in the street just because he does cute mitts. But hey, all the best to Berchelt. We enjoyed him while his type of skill lasted, and God bless him, and hope he put enough money to live off of, or invested enough money that way he's good. And let's really hope he keeps it that way, man. The other fight we actually had, and that was the son of Tim Tszyu, which was, I think a lot of Mexicans don't really talk about it, because to me that was the beginning of the end, or closer to the end. That's the guy that actually stopped Chavez Sr. And of course, yes, Oscar did it before and whatnot, and Frankie Randall put him on his ass, and had those weird fights with Taylor. But he was his dad too was the one that put the final nail in the coffin, for Chavez Sr. Yes, he continued to fight, but that was just it was like La Chilindrina circus. So it was what it was. So long story short, Tsu actually beat Gasha. He came and fought Gasha, which I thought it was a good matchmaking, especially from PBC. So that tells you PBC is not they're not stupid. They play stupid and they do stupid fights till you know, and they take advantage of the boxing fan as much as they can, you know, till you say stop. In this case, Tin Tzu versus Gasha was, again, good fight. It was something new for the kid. Him being Australian, he came to his first time really fighting in the U.S. He fought a legit guy in Gasha. Gasha is a good fighter. Not too entertaining for my personal taste. But it was enough of a fighter to where he was going to pose some sort of threat to Gasha. To Tsu. But at the same time, not lose his undefeated record to Gasha, because if you lose your undefeated record, or you lose even to Gasha, you have fucking problems. He's got blanked out by Lara before, and he had a couple other lackluster fights. Most of his fights are lackluster. So the fact that he was able to do what he did to Gasha, that's kudos. So I hope PBC takes care of him. They hope they understand the type of attraction that they have if they're able to do things right. You know, him going back to Australia and doing great things there would be a beauty to see. How would he do at 54? I think he comes in at a great time to be at 54. I think Charlo is I think he's at the point where he might go up to 160. I don't see him at 154 much longer. And then you got young blood going in there, like you got, I'm assuming in 2 to 3 fights, Terrence Crawford. You got Errol Spence, more likely not going to 54 soon. So you got all these bigger guys that at 47 that are eventually going to go to 54. So I think it's a perfect time for Tsu to get there and you know, receive with open arms all these guys, all these smaller guys from 47 that are going to 54. So really looking forward to that. Especially the guy, imagine Tsu versus Virgil Ortiz. I think it'll be a great fight because I don't foresee Virgil staying at 47 much longer if he even fights again. So yeah, so that was that. Other than that, I think there was another fight in the zone. I caught I got the others with Warrington fighting Geeko again. Again, it was what it was. Headbutt City, but again, Warrington won the fight. So good for him. Let's see. In other news, we got what? Camboso's actually agreeing to fight Haney, which is a very, you know what? Credit to fucking Haney. Because look, we talk shit about Haney having no power, blah, blah this, blah, blah that. One thing the kid is fucking doing, he's actually going after it. You know, and I'm one to make fun of his email championship, but at the same time, that's just me fucking trolling. I get it. You chased that 135 champ, you know, which was Loma for a while. That never happened. And now you get the belt. You fight Linares. You fight Jojo Diaz against smaller guy, old guy. It's okay. It doesn't matter. He's fighting guys. He is, other than Teofimo, he is the other guy that actually wants the big fights. Now Teofimo is a little whack, and we'll talk about him a little bit in a bit. But Haney, regardless, wants to be the man at 135 now. Again, Teofimo kind of eliminated himself from being the man at 135. You got another kid that's fighting Ryan Garcia. He doesn't give a fuck. He just wants to put on the show and then go back to his fucking padded wall house or whatever the fuck he lives in, his fucking crazy house, and go back and go away for another year or two. But again, Haney, you gotta give him credit. Again, he's not the strongest puncher, but he's a guy that actually fucking bets on himself. Good for him. The fight, you know, I guess for whatever reason it didn't happen with DAZN, but ESPN was more than happy to pick it up, and he's gonna fight Cambosos. Now we're really gonna find out what Cambosos is about, because yeah, there's a lot of shit about Teofimo not being, you know, 100% for that fight, And Kambosos did put some fucking hands on Teofimo. Again, not exactly a one-sided beatdown, but it was a beatdown nonetheless. Relatively close fight that I think we all saw Kambosos win. He did win, and now these guys are, A and B of the 135 division. So I'm really looking forward to the decision. Not so much for the fight, because I don't think Haney's gonna put on. He's gonna put on a performance, a great performance for himself, not necessarily for the fans. But nonetheless, I'm happy and I'm looking forward to seeing an undisputed champion again at 135 pounds. Hopefully, everything works out. Everything gets taken care of, and we actually get to see that fight. After that fight, again, we're really gonna see what Kambosos is about. Was it a fluke? Was it not? Is Haney just gonna put hands on him? We've seen Haney hurt his last two fights versus Linares and versus even versus Jojo. Jojo's honestly a 126 pounder. Let's be honest. That's where he started at. That's where he originally, and then he jumped to 130, which was a bit more comfortable for him. Then he got the opportunity to fight the guy that Ryan was supposed to fight, and didn't. So again, he's not a 135 pounder. Jojo's a 130 pounder. Hopefully, all goes well, and we get to see a great fight with Haney and Kambosos. Who do I have in that fight? I don't know. You know what? Again, it really, there's so many fucking mystery to that fight. Was it really a legit win for Kambosos? If it was a legit win for Kambosos, fucking he might have the ability. He might have just enough more pop in him to actually get rid of Devin Haney, because again we've seen Devin Haney worked. If he doesn't, if he going gun shy, then Devin Haney's gonna fucking box his ears out for fucking 12 rounds. The only issue where I see it as almost a 50-50 fight is because it is in Australia. We understand and we know that the judge is very favorable for their guys in Australia, so hopefully they figured all that out, and they've been able to get judges not from the U.S. or Australia, but somewhere neutral grounds where we could get a legit fucking fight. Other than that, I think I think that's pretty. Let's see, what else do we have? No, I think I got overexcited. Somebody was asking me about the infamous slap from Will Smith, but I don't give a fuck. Will Smith's fucking look like a weenie slapping his little ass dude. So, all right, guys, this is it for me. Thank you again, and like I said, make sure you guys listen, subscribe on YouTube, because I eventually would love to go to YouTube only. I know it's distributed in all these other places, but I know you guys might not like the mug, but I wouldn't mind start doing more YouTube videos, and I'm gonna start uploading little by little, but baby steps first. All right, guys, see you guys later. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your week. See you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.